Who needs Grand Theft Auto 6 when we have LA Noire? And yes, I'm wearing Shinsaku Aishima's mod coat from critically acclaimed J-drama Bayside Shakedown. And by cool mod coat, I mean I'm wearing my wife's winter parka because I didn't have the time or the money to afford a cool military jacket. And I just put the baby down for a nap, so I don't know how much time I have here. LA Noire doesn't make GTA irrelevant because it's better at simulating being a criminal. Grand Theft Auto asks, what if you could do anything? LA Noire asks, what if your choices didn't matter? But LA Noire asks another question, one more concerned with how truth is manufactured over time rather than uncovered. And if you want to be a good cop who gets promoted, it isn't the truth that's going to do it. It's managing your relationships with your partner, with your boss, and especially with your suspects. All anyone could talk about when talking about the game upon release was its facial tech. It gave an uncanny digitized look to every actor that reminded me of a more advanced version of the stuff being done in early 90s Mortal Kombat. And yeah, the tech is impressive, and it's always real fun to do the Leo in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood meme ecstatically pointing at an obscure Mad Men actor. Seriously, why are there so many Mad Men actors in this game? But that's not what I'm interested in when I'm playing LA Noire. LA Noire is less of an action-adventure game and more of a visual novel, because the plot keeps moving regardless of your choices. The core loop are the interrogations. You have 3 choices: good cop, your bad cop, and accuse, or for the old heads, truth, lie, truth, doubt, or lie. Good cop is confidence that the person is telling their version of the truth while maintaining eye contact with you. You don't need expensive tech to indicate that either. In over 10 years of customer service experience, I learned with bureaucratic efficiency that if you look a customer in the eye as you lie to them, they will usually back down. Nobody wants an autist telling them they're wrong. Bad cop susses out ambiguity, like when a perp says something to you in a posturing tone, then can't help but look sideways. And the final option is accuse, which is what makes the interrogations more than a simple 1 in 3 game of chance. Because if you accuse, the burden is on you to present the right evidence. Depending on the case, you could have upwards of a dozen evidence choices, so playing the game right requires thorough investigation during the detective segments. I'd say there are 3 core gameplay loops in LA Noire: driving to the destination, investigation, and interrogation. And there are of course the numerous dispatch missions that often require little more than barbaric gun-on-gun violence, because Cole Phelps isn't just an exceptional middle manager, he's also a Marine. And the game is also fantastic because it reminds me of the the simulation modes in like the Madden and 2K series. Except here, I mean, you get gradually more and more promoted and better, and then you take a plummet, and we're going to get into it. It should be fun. So after a brief stint in patrol, Cole impresses the homicide brass so much that he earns a promotion within the first year on the beat, but homicide is the second act of the game. Traffic is first. Your partner is Stephen Bukowski, a Polak insecure about his lack of participation in the Second World War. He and Phelps share an awkward exchange in which both guys try to mog each other over who is more of an American hero. Cole served in the war, Bukowski served 6 years on patrol. Patrol is where a new cop starts, hence the tutorial. Tons of chaotic, busy work that usually goes nowhere. Manage that with an unbothered head and you'll earn a promotion in no time. And Phelps does just that because he's an exceptional middle manager. He checkmates poor Bukowski on the way to his first crime scene after Bukowski mentions for the 3rd time he was on the beat for 6 years. He's so triggered by Phelps' rebuttal, but then an amazing thing happens moments later when they arrive at the scene. Bukowski gently assures Phelps that if he has any questions, don't be afraid to ask.
Thanks, Stefan. You're okay.
The first witness is a black worker who is visibly nervous. We're in a parking lot with an abandoned car, the inside splattered with blood, but no body. Check the trunk, suggests the coroner. Cole opens the trunk and there's a receipt for a pig. So it's pig's blood. Foul play. Spoiler, a waste of police resources, but we haven't deduced any of that yet. You get 4 questions with the black worker. The fact that he's black is important. The beat cop who first arrived on the scene assures the worker that as long as he tells his story, he'll be fine. If you play this game like a retard on his phone, you will be confused, because as impressive as the facial tech is in this game, it's all about paying attention to the cutscene where we're introduced to the worker. But if I'm distracted and barely watching the screen, I'm confused about his intentions. I ask him about the car and the victim. I bad cop him into the dust, or so I hope, but he doesn't cower. Then I accuse him, but accuse is bold, so I have to back it up with proof. Cole alleges that this black man has beaten the victim to death with a steel insta-heat pipe. The worker is so disgusted and done with my bullshit that he tells me to take out my pistol and hand it to him so he can show me what respect looks like. So he can show me what respect looks like. And completely humbled and baffled, Cole tells the man not to go very far. He responds by saying, "Thanks for wasting half a man's working day." I feel kind of unwell after all of this. This isn't some sort of perverse power fantasy that we're typically fed in video games. I'm not getting pleasure out of any of this. And this is the first level in the game. And it's already patient and punishing me for being impatient and not paying attention. It's like my grandfather, who also happened to be a cop, used to say to me,
"Get your head in the game."
Cole and Bukowski then head to the wife of the Vic's home. We barely investigate the house. Bukowski suggests talking to the woman and looking for more clues. "Huh, you don't say. No wonder you worked on patrol for 6 years." We're equally rude to the wife. I spam bad cop because I still have no idea what this game wants from me, so I threaten and accuse her like a troglodyte. She's appalled by my behavior, making sure to let me know, because she knows I'm nothing more than a retard on my phone. By sheer luck, I find the one thing that activates the next main objective, a matchbook for Kavanaugh's bar, so off we scamper to the bar to interview the victim's friend and co-worker. He's in the back of the bar. I try to good cop him for a change. Maybe I should switch up the attitude. But again, he gives me nothing. I fail every question. Then Bukowski makes a bold executive decision. He suggests tailing the guy back to his apartment, like I'm in an Assassin's Creed game. So we tail him home and discover the victim alive. He makes a run for it. Now we're playing a Yakuza game. I'm chasing him up the apartment stairs, down a drain, and through a yard. Bukowski, in a surprising moment of competence, uses his black and white to block off access. Drew Carey has been apprehended and arrested for wasting time and resources. The brass reward me for a job well done. I still feel confused and sick. Now let's do this the right way. The first two correct responses are good cop. Remember, this is pig's blood, not a human's. This is just a normal, decent working man trying to make a living getting pulled into a situation he never asked to be in. What I said earlier about the game not caring whether or not you do well, the Force doesn't care, but I think the game actually does, because I'll tell you this, when I get a question wrong in LA Noire and it's someone I like, I feel terrible afterwards. Not just bewildered about what I did wrong, but how I made that probably innocent person feel. Good cop rarely feels like the right decision because you're playing a video game, and with that second order of awareness, you're trained to suspect that everyone you talk to is suspect because the choices are always the same. The third question is everything. It's about the wallet, the one that ID'd the Vic. Did you go through the man's wallet? If you ask as a good cop, you don't get the truth. And if you accuse, like I did the first time, he'll tell you right off. But if you go bad cop, which is technically the first time post-tutorial that you should, the man opens up that he was curious, not about the money, but about just who the hell would do this. Same with the wife. Nearly every question gets you closer to the truth if you go good cop. But just like the worker, there's one question where you are forced to choose something other than good cop. If you've been paying attention, you'll know that from investigating the house that not only were the husband and wife sleeping in different rooms, but that the victim was having an affair, allegedly with a woman from Seattle. Just remember for a moment that we once bad copped and accused this poor woman so severely that she was left with no other choice but to call herself a victim in front of two grown cops. The game never suggests it directly, but after solving the case properly, I started wondering if the victim and co-workers were the lovers all along. I feel euphoric, like I did something meaningful with my life. The brass rewards me for a job well done. I said earlier that the reason this game is peak is because it's so good at showing how truth is manufactured. During the homicide portion of the game, your partner is Rusty Galloway, an alcoholic who has been married and divorced 3 times. In every case, he says the same thing. The husband did it. Occam's razor. This is, of course, unsatisfactory for Phelps. The scary Irish bloke who promised us a promotion if we got a confession during the patrol tutorial of the game is now our boss. Whereas Traffic had us investigating a fake death from the outset, Homicide throws us smack dab into legitimate brutality. Unlike Bukowski, Galloway has no interest in friendship or small talk. The last thing he wants is an ambitious partner. Phelps chastises Finbar for drinking on the job when the investigation takes us to another bar. Russ beelines it to the bartender, demands 3 fingers of rye for free, and and then screams at Cole for pestering him instead of interviewing the witness. Cole interviews the owner of the bar who used to have a thing for the victim. We spam bad cop because we still don't know how to properly manage these situations, but we luck out by getting a license plate number for being a good cop for once. Did the owner do the deed? Instead of arousing suspicion in him, L.A. Noire makes Cole ask him if he thinks the husband could have done it. He says no. On the ride to the husband's place, Rusty does kind of a weird thing. He no longer thinks the husband is the culprit, or maybe it's something else. Something about his intuition. Maybe Rusty isn't just lazy and impatient. At the husband's place, we get the picture of a lonely mechanic resentful that his wife doesn't appreciate all of his hard work. Galloway's intuition starts to make sense. An impatient playthrough of this game yields nothing but confusion, but a patient one exposes him as a cop who is sympathetic to men who abuse their wives. He mentions it constantly to Cole in the car. He says things like, "Never get between a patient and his medicine. What do you expect men to do coming back from the war? Their wives to give them lip? They're all hopped up on adrenaline. What else do you expect them to do?" Galloway is extremely self-aware of his violence, but he has no inclination to change any of his behavior because there's no incentive for that in the system he's in. Cole gets the husband to admit that he's abused his wife, albeit out of self-defense. Finbar verbally baits the husband, so the husband decks Galloway in the face. Cole intervenes and the two arrest him. Russ says, "I'll keep watch over old Slugger here," while Cole mans the phone again to gather more info and detain him down at the station. Galloway never once hits the man in retaliation. This is kind of strange to me. A man who has been married and divorced 3 times, drinks endlessly, was prattling on and on and on about how the husband is usually the culprit. The war has made men more violent. They're supposed to return back home, hop up on adrenaline, and take lip from their wives. Once Russ sees another man abusing his wife, he's comforted, though. A normal marriage. A man in a marriage beating his wife is routine, and his prejudice is absorbed into common sense. You can completely forego the interrogation at the station with the husband if you decide to make a detour to the other perp's apartment, Mendez. Mendez has the smoking gun, a bloodied socket wrench carelessly strewn across his bedroom floor. This leads to a wild chase between Phelps and Mendez, first on foot via the rooftops and then down to the streets in a high-speed chase. The high-speed chases in L.A. Noire are both thrilling and hilarious. Mendez is apprehended and arrested. He's the guy. He's our guy. And we didn't even have to interrogate him. Good job, lads. You got the spick. Now, if you choose to go to the station to interview the husband first and nail the second interrogation, the scary Irish bloke will reprimand Cole, because Cole's good detective work is disruptive. If you successfully pressure the husband, the scary Irish captain will reprimand Cole. Why? Because the institution doesn't want the truth. It wants closure, predictable narratives, and manageable paperwork. Do all the things a good detective is supposed to do, and you're still forced to go to Mendez's apartment and chase him because the chase feels good. And look at how more convenient all this is rather than arresting a white mechanic who goes on and on about how well he provides for his wife. It doesn't matter that we've checkmated him with stacks of evidence. The threatening note in the kitchen, his alibi not matching what the bar owner said. Because the car chase gives the department catharsis. We know nothing of Mendez's motive, but we know he runs at the sight of the cops and has that damn bloody wrench in his room. We'll never know why, but we do know that either way Cole handles the case, it ends with the captain and Galloway patting you on the back for another job well done as they sip whiskey without you. Progression is a hell of a drug, and Cole Phelps sucks it down like Coca-Cola. He looks like a genius after his time with Russ on Homicide, so he gets his biggest promotion yet. Advice. Your newest partner? Kevin Beacon lookalike Roy Earl. Whereas Bukowski was incompetent and Galloway an alcoholic wife-beater, Earl is an openly racist and misogynist detective who knows how to play the game. This is a comparison that might get lost on y'all, but Cole and Earl teaming up is kind of like the two-man power trip of Triple K and Stone Cold Steve Austin in the Fed. A whole lot of power that I didn't need to see together. If Traffic taught us that being wrong doesn't stop the system, and Homicide confirms that the system prefers clean, wrong answers, then Vice is experiencing the system as actively manipulated. In the final case of Traffic, Cole, Bukowski, and Earl intersect when the investigation leads the boys to a Hollywood backlot where a lot of Jeffrey Epstein adjacent stuff seems to be happening. Earl shows up during the investigation and is Earl Way suggests to Cole to maybe ease up on who to follow up on. Roy Earl was definitely on the island is what I'm trying to say. Vice is mostly spent investigating drug abuse due to neglect, but the setup highlights the complicity of the Los Angeles Police Department, specifically Earl's and your new boss. Earl takes Cole to a boxing match like they're old friends, but an inconvenient coincidence happens at the event. The guy who was paid to flop refuses to dive, knocks out the black guy Earl had his money on, and lo and behold, we've got ourselves a case. We run into gangster Mickey Cohen, played by the same guy in Mulholland Drive who got spooked to death by a bum behind the dumpster of a Denny's. Earl and Cohen are tight, surprise, surprise. Cole straight up mogs Cohen in front of Roy, which impresses Roy. What doesn't is that Cole won't let go of investigating this case the right way. Earl wants Hammond, the guy who was supposed to take a dive. Cole wants the truth. The setup barely functions as a detective case. It only involves 3 questions, the least out of every case in the game, I'm pretty sure. The boys are led to a brothel where sex worker Candy is being slugged by an Italian who prefers hand knives. We knock him out cold and then interview Candy. I botch all but one question. I successfully accuse her of being with Hammond recently by showing her the coupon for a new house she wanted to buy with Hammond's payout money. What didn't the boomers have handed to them on a silver platter? Regardless of how well you play this case, the story doesn't branch much, because most of the mission is Earl forcing Cole to tail this broad all across town, on foot, on wheels, even inside the booking place. Bukowski's tailing suggestion from the first case is a long ways from Earl's. For Bukowski, it was lazy, improvised, practical, cynical, if harmless. Earl's tailing of Candy feels manipulative, predatory, and conspiratorial. Now we see Vice, the highest promotion of the game, for what it is. Surveillance institutionalized, information being weaponized, and outcomes being shaped beforehand. Cole can't stop Candy's death no matter how determined he is to uncover the truth. He's now a player being shuffled around the board, blindly following orders of surveillance, even if we can still make Earl drive for us. But Cole does get one up on Roy by the conclusion. A shootout ensues in the Egyptian theater. The Italian cops to the murder of Candy. Cole lets Hammond go right in front of Earl. Hammond shoulder bumps Earl as he passes him. God damn you, Cole, he's got my money, and yet he doesn't do a damn thing about it. The captain comes in to chastise and threaten us for exposing all the institutional corruption, and we're done. Once Cole gets demoted after sleeping with the hot German Elsa Lichtman, he's placed with blue blood hunchback Herschel Biggs, a cynical but decent man, the same guy who shoulder brushed us at the beginning of Traffic. Arson is technically a demotion, and I'm not entirely sure why the LAPD wouldn't just straight up fire Cole. I mean, banging a German in 1947 seems like ground for immediate dismissal, but I'm not a cop. Maybe it's a loyalty thing. Joke's on the department, though, because Arson inadvertently becomes Cole's biggest chance to uncover all the corruption and to redeem himself in all that he sees as champion of the good. Leland Monroe is L.A. Noire's big bad final boss, a real estate tycoon behind the Suburban Redevelopment Fund, which is definitely not a demonic organization responsible for burning down the homes of common people in order to build crappier homes out of extremely cheap concrete. Cole is no longer rifling through battered women's homes with or without their consent. He's now investigating charred families under the crumbled remains of the American dream, repackaged as suburbia. We're not playing around anymore. This is a demotion to everyone but Phelps, who's now playing like he's got stakes. We successfully get a neighbor to testify. A flyer in the shape of origami reveals Leland Monroe's lizardly grin and a promise of the vacation of a lifetime. The neighbor gives us the same flyer. Biggs is a cynical man, but he will never be invulnerable to pointless death. He served in the war and not the sequel. Cole used his status in the Second World War as an adrenaline rush to the top of the LAPD, only to find him here on his redemption tour, but it's implied that Biggs has been in arson for quite a while. And against Herschel's desires, we head to Monroe's office. It looks out of time in 1947, built out of glass instead of concrete. The receptionist doesn't appreciate Herschel's light misogyny either. He's stressed out. He keeps mentioning his pension. And yet we're granted access to Monroe's office after saying we're cops. So that's all it takes. Mario would probably get to Bowser a whole lot quicker if he just told a Goomba he was a cop, or if Link just told an Octorok that he... Monroe's reactions make the facial tech worth it. The only way to talk to a bad cop is to bad cop him back as he stares a hole into your soul, desperately trying to manifest an ulcer. First, the flyers, they keep popping up in the vicinity of recently scorched homes. Monroe responds arrogantly, denying his complicity in aggressive marketing strategy. He only relies on radio and billboards, but Cole ain't playing that game. He parries Monroe's sideways answer with, "So that's your explanation? Coincidence?" Monroe gives us the squinty eye with a side of shit-eating grin. You're missing the vital ingredient. Proof. But the game has made it obvious to us at this point. First the flyer in the shape of the origami, and then the flyer from the neighbor. How he doesn't know we have this for evidence can only speak to Leland Monroe's hubris. He isn't as smart as he thinks he is. My face is the brand! He's triggered now, his banal reactivity like that of any self-professed deity. He's desperate now. Did you know the mayor and the chief of police are also part of the Suburban Redevelopment Fund? And then the smoking gun, one last bad cop to get him to admit demonic shenanigans, all in the name of progress. Anyone who refuses to comply is relegated to the waste bin of society. After we rattle Monroe, he confirms Biggs' worst fear. He's on the pension board. Another try-hard flex, but Biggs no longer cares about his pension. Justice and general disdain for this guy has reignited whatever passion was snuffed out of him from the First World War. The case ends with a rather hilariously impotent car and bus chase in which Cole and Biggs must slowly follow a tram wreaking havoc through the streets of LA. This couldn't be any further from the thrilling chase with Mendez. The only stakes here are avoiding the pileup of cars left in the wake of the hijacked bus, lest we be docked pay for damages to Biggs' green monster. We apprehend the man most likely responsible for the fires by shooting him dead. Case solved. Or is it? I didn't even mention Kelso or the heroin conspiracy. I barely mentioned Elsa or half the plot twist people talk about from this game. Because 15 years later, that's not what sticks with me. What sticks with me is how every death changes the meaning of the same actions, questioning people, following people, managing relationships, climbing the ladder. L.A. Noire isn't about solving crimes. It's about learning how institutions manufacture truth and how easy it is to confuse professional success with moral goodness. Thanks for watching. How it is. Shit, I did it again.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's off. It's askew.